Hello friends, TechManPat here. Today we have an exciting drone review for you. Now it took me a few hours of testing to come up with the best way to describe this drone, so here I go. Think of it as a self-flying algorithmic tracking camera drone. At 649 Australian dollars, it better be the best damn self-flying algorithmic tracking camera drone out there. Now, if that price tag hasn't scared you off, or if you're curious to see what $649 gets you, then watch on. While it is quite small, even pocketable, this drone can do a lot. It can follow and film you at set distances as you walk or run or ride. It can stay in one spot like a camera on a tripod, recording your epic stunts or dances like a camera dolly, then fly straight up to provide a mesmerizing bird's eye view and make holiday shots much more interesting. Overall, it's like a flying GoPro. Maybe that's the better way to say it. Surprisingly, with amazing video quality to boot. You see, at this incredible size, the color is rich, crisp, and the drone can manage a nice 2.7K resolution at 30 frames per second. And at 1080p at 60 frames for those much faster scenes, and actually can do 1080p 30 frames with HDR. All of this from a very tiny camera sensor right here on a gimbal. So you might be asking yourself, who is this for? And actually, is it any good? Well, tune in and hopefully I can answer these questions and more. Let's review the HOVERAir X1 from 00 Robotics. Big thanks to them for sending this drone for review. Let's get started by rolling the intro. I was blown away the first time I watched back a recording in the follow mode. I honestly thought it was a gimmick with no actual utility, and I was absolutely wrong. The HOVERAir X1 is a combo deal that comes with two batteries, one in here and this one right here, and the charger itself. You can buy it separately, but I do recommend getting the bundle. The drone weighs around 128 grams, which is seriously light, though the documentation says 125 grams. But still, for comparison, this is half the weight of something like the DJI Mini 3 or Mini 4, which is around 250 grams. Neither here nor there, but it does put a question mark on the flight time, which is said to be 11 minutes. I was getting around 10 minutes in most of my sessions with some variability, but still, 10 minutes is pretty good for the size and what's it doing. Now, the tracking algorithm can follow you up to 24.14 kilometers per hour. And let me say, the speed is its only weakness. The moment you speed up, like I did on my road bike, you can say goodbye to the drone at above 24 kilometers an hour. So if you're thinking this would be great for your next ski trip, unfortunately not. Below 24 kilometers an hour, it's flawless with an asterisk. Here is what I think its strengths lie. Hiking through very open areas, holiday trips with amazing scenery where a selfie stick is just out of place and dated, downhill mountain biking where you roll through obstacles and jumps and whatnot, but not at speed, and amateur filmmaking. With speed out of the way, what other limitations do you have to consider? Well, the battery, of course. With how light the drone is, you can imagine the battery isn't massive. With a flight time of around that 11 to 10 minutes during my testing, it's enough for a cool trick, a moment during a big hike with a few scenic opportunities, a cinematic movie shot, and if you shell out a few extra dollars, you can get an extra battery with the dual charger, which I absolutely think is worth it. Now, the asterisk mentioned before can be revealed as object avoidance, and how this drone has none of that. It flies in front, to the side, or behind you with no real way to avoid branches or trees. It will follow a curved path towards you, and obstacles be damned. It will face plant into anything and everything in its way. However, every so often it will hit a branch and go above or below it, depending on the speed the object is approaching at. To be clear, you aren't going to be going bush bashing with this drone. That being said, the drone's build and design are extremely durable. As you can see, it has a little cage around its propellers. This cage isn't actually one part, it's two or four if you count all of them. And the joints are absolutely flexible. Now, my drone crashed multiple times, and all I had to do was pop the pins back into it with my fingers, and it was back to normal. Continue flying like nothing happened. Now, by design, this drone can take a lot of hits, but avoid water at all costs. you also have to avoid high winds. Even though the drone can rise up to 15 meters, it will get blown, of course, if winds are higher than a level 4, which is about 7.9 meters a second. In my mind, there are 3 key areas where this drone excels, but I'll come back to whether it's worth the dollars for those use cases in a moment. Let's talk about those use cases. The first is holidays. I've done a few hikes in my time, and maybe it's been a while, but up a mountain where you get to the summit, they have beautiful views with no one really around to take a photo of you and, for example, your partner. A selfie with barely any scenery has to suffice because you can't really reach your hand out too far. Not with the X1. Taking photos is an absolute breeze, but the part where the drone can fly off into the distance away from you and then take those hands-free photos, including the beautiful horizon behind you, is amazing. And it works really, really well. Then getting some orbital views makes for a great Instagram reel. The drone does come with a vertical recording mode, which fits phones pretty well, and it crops the frame, so be wary of that resolution reduction. Now, the follow mode on a hike is a great way to tell a story, and the drone will keep you centered in those videos. So take a few seconds at base camp, then midway, and then when you reach the summit, you have yourself an influencer-worthy trip video for the soon-to-be banned TikTok. Now, taking the drone for a scenic walk to share with your friends or get some mindful scenes for your deep and influential YouTube videos, or you can use it as a mobile camera for a walk and talk video. Now, audio-wise, the drone is quite loud, as you can imagine. So enabling audio recording will ask you to use the mobile device with the app. So here's the cool part. Utilizing their so-called proprietary noise reduction algorithms, the audio will automatically suppress the sound of the propellers and sync the recorded sound from your mobile phone or external mic with the video from the device. It's a great way to capture you and your voice while out and about hands-free, making it look super professional and fancy. So this is it. The drone is currently flying. I can barely hear myself speak, and my phone is acting as the microphone. And at the same time, the algorithm should be canceling out the noise of the drone. It's really difficult to speak, but take a few steps back, you get used to it, and maybe put in some earphones and whatnot. It's even better. My suggestion is if you're talking to the drone, to have wireless earbuds with the microphone and your phone in your pocket. And that way you can actually speak to it and put, noise cancelling on, and the noise won't annoy you. But it's actually pretty good if you're just trying to share a quick story or an update or just your thoughts out and about. Overall, with its compact size and feather-like weight and interchangeable batteries, it's easy to take with you on these long treks and talks. And with 32 gigabytes of storage built in, you won't really run out of space. The file sizes aren't particularly big. Now, moving on to level 2 of exciting things to do outside. We have activities like cycling or mountain biking, and at this stage, the best mode is dolly mode. Now, either facing you or following from behind, which enables you to capture the action from a pretty nice angle, and you can set the height at which the drone's at. When road cycling in open areas, the drone is fantastic. When you start getting into areas with trees and obstacles, the drone has no way to dodge said trees. It may survive a brush with a branch here and there and regain its sky feet, but a head-on with a tree ends the party and immediately stops the recording, which is a shame because I wouldn't mind seeing how far it falls to the ground. The drone claims to have intelligent flight paths, and from my testing, what it does, it sort of angles its flight path based on how you're moving across a space to follow your best trajectory as closely as possible. However, if you move in front of a tree too fast, it will lose you. Hence, mountain biking is a little bit of a hit and miss. You could have one downhill run with absolutely no issues and catch the drone right at the end into your palm, while another will probably end in trees and you'll have to run up the hill and grab the drone because it just falls to the ground. At this level, the drone's tracking speed is the limitation. As the drone follows a tracked object, it will pick up speed up to 24 kilometers an hour. This is also based on wind resistance, so it may vary depending on the weather. But as soon as the object goes too fast, the drone loses tracking. So now, level 3 of exciting things you can do outside. In my mind, that is snow sports, a bit of downhill skiing or snowboarding, and the drone would lose you very quickly. Basically, it's not the product for you if you're gonna go to level 3. And of course, any water sports, that's a no. Now, my last use case is filming. Making movies that look like $1 million on a shoestring budget is very possible today, and the software and hardware are so accessible to the masses that if you have a creative bone in your body, you can certainly give it a go. Take, for example, Monkey Man, a recent hit from Dev Patel, a big name in Hollywood, but during the shooting, many of their equipment, including the main camera, broke down. Things went downhill to the extent that it had to shoot many scenes with the help of a phone camera and GoPro. So, why am I talking about that? Well, the X1 enables amazing dolly-like shots of the action without cinema-grade equipment. Whether it be as a backup camera, a bird's-eye view of a scene, or a follow-through shot of the actors, a little drone like this can add a few standout minutes to your film. It would certainly pay for itself. And the resolution and picture quality are fantastic. I think it really wouldn't be out of place in a low-budget film or university project. And most of all, I think YouTube content creators will benefit the most from this. In all these modes, the algorithmic tracking system keeps you, the person who set the drone off, in the center as much as possible and within their speed limitations. And it did that really well in my testing. I was super surprised. Watching the content back, seeing how smooth, stable, and centered the video was as I moved around was a truly amazing experience, and especially considering the size of the drone that did it. So let's talk about those flight modes. The X1 has quite a few, plenty in fact. So hover for static shots, zoom out, follow orbit, and bird's eye. Then there's dolly track, side track, and smart control, plus variations on those making up the 20. In each mode, there are the settings for the following: type, duration, distance, and altitude. You can set the specific time frames like 60 seconds, 30 seconds if you're creating short, or just leave it at unlimited. Specifically for altitude, you can set it to low, mid, and high. I would recommend high and low because mid just doesn't look quite right. It sort of sits at your chest height. So do note when the drone gets too close to the ground, it'll also stop. So if you're going over really lumpy areas. To start up the drone, use a small button at the top to select the flight mode. After turning it on with the big button, you then point the camera onto yourself, press that big button once again, and it'll kick into gear, lift off, and a red light will indicate that it is recording, and the party starts. So who is this for? Well, the video quality is incredible. It really is, and while 2.7K at 30 frames isn't GoPro levels, it's enough. Furthermore, the 1080p mode lets you turn on HDR, and I think the influencers will be using this mode as it looks fantastic on a HDR capable phone where resolution on a small screen isn't the issue to be held. Now, my 2.5-year-old son had a great amount of fun with it. It was nice to have him take the drone for a walk, and I highly recommend it as a fun activity. But just that, it's not going to have you spending $600 just for that. I think it's for the people that I alluded to earlier, social media influencers, those that create visually appealing outdoor content for their audience. With the X1, they can create another dimension, and within that group, there are those who are going on holiday, maybe to a place with a few people and more greenery. Capturing those moments from afar when you are by yourself is fantastic, and this works really, really well, and so light and portable. It's basically a highly elaborate replacement for a selfie stick. Then I think it's YouTube creators and folks who want to create cool film shots that require a dolly but are on a very tight budget. I, for one, will use this on my next video review of an electric scooter, for example. It'll be perfect for that follow me along while I ride and capture some B-roll, enabling me to have both hands on the handlebars, which is really cool for safety reasons. But here's the thing, the price. Not everyone in this group will be thrilled. At 649 Australian dollars at JB Hi-Fi, and obviously Amazon links below, with 2 batteries and an external charger, the people buying this will really need to know they'll be actually using it, because it's not for manual flying. Those controls are laggy and very limited. It's built for automation. So would I buy it now that I've tested it? Yeah, I think so if I was doing way more reviews of ride-on devices. I don't do them as often, so it might not be for me. But let me also clarify that $649 is quite the spend, and I think the perfect price point for this is around $400 to $500. Let me know what price you would pay. Friends, thank you very much for watching. Huge thanks to 00 Robotics for sending the HOVERair X1 for review. Links are below, of course, for the Australian details, and I will update if I find a cheaper price elsewhere. As always, prices are correct at the time of filming. Thank you very much for watching, and since you made it this far, why don't you tap the like button and subscribe to support us. Bye!